Hi, welcome to my community science project. We're looking at squirrels in southern Ontario, report made by Vladimir Barac. So the thing that is being reported are the activity and behavior of squirrels over many locations in the GTA and Grey Bruce area of southern Ontario. 75 observations were recorded in the log over a period of 103 days, from December 17th to March 30th, over the winter and early spring. So my activity log has a bunch of different topics, and they go as such: time and date, habitat, location, weather, species, behavior, other animals, and notable habits. There are approximately 1 observation a day, 6 observations a week. The most observations in one day were 3, and the most days without an observation were 7, or a week. So just some disclaimers before going into the data. Squirrels are really common in Toronto, and if I had to record every squirrel I saw, I would have had to carry my activity log on me at all times. So that means I was very selective in choosing what to record. Unique and interesting random behavior would be recorded more often than predictable behavior. However, when we got closer to March, I started to record more normal squirrel behavior. There were 2 instances of no squirrel sightings. One was on January 29th to 31st in the Blue Mountains. It was actually very cold that day, those few days, and I think that is why the squirrels weren't out. And another day was really windy on March 1st in Toronto, and that was another day where I went to look for squirrels, but I could not find any, even after going on a walk. The recordings still observe common squirrel behavior and still give a basic understanding of how squirrels typically act. So the first topic is time and date. So squirrels are diurnal, opposite of nocturnal, which means that squirrels are active during the day. They return to their nests at night, and as the seasons and days got longer, squirrels will gradually stay out later. 9 observations in December, 16 in January, 24 in February, and 26 in March. I counted 11 observations in the morning and 62 in the afternoon. The earliest time was 9:47 a.m., latest time was 6 p.m. I'd often just look out the window in my room around lunchtime because I would have class in the morning, which is probably why I don't have as many morning observations. So this does not mean that squirrels are not active during the morning. It's just that when I decided to record my data, it was during the afternoon more often than the morning. So habitat, this is the greater biome or environment or ecosystem. So Toronto, Blue Mountains, woodland, forest, beach, something like that. Other organisms and abiotic things share this space. And there are 2 main environments in which my recordings were taken: urban space and woodland. And all of my observations actually took place within the red circles at the Blue Mountains and in Toronto. List of habitats. In Toronto, I had 48 observations, 28 in the house, backyard, 4 in the front yard, 5 on a street, 1 in an alleyway, 6 in a park, and 3 at a university. At the Blue Mountains, or cottage property, there were 25 observations in total, 20 in the front yard, where the bird feeder was, 4 in the backyard, and 1 in an apple orchard. Location, so this is the spot in the habitat where the squirrel is located. So a bench, garbage can, fence, something like that. Trees were the most common place to find squirrels, with 25 observations of a squirrel in a tree. Squirrels are arboreal, which means their entire lives are heavily based around trees. Power line, squirrels would often be seen running across power lines. But they're not really the best place to take shelter or to really travel. Even though they could cross over a lot of obstacles, they're wide in the open, and a bird of prey could catch them. A fence is kind of like a power line where it's straight and goes over a lot of obstacles, but it's closer to the ground and trees, so the squirrel can escape better. And also at my house, there are instances of squirrels sprawled out, lying down, suntanning on the fence. The bird feeder at the Blue Mountains property was a very common place to find squirrels with 11 sightings. Uh, Squirrels and birds and other animals would come under here to find the seeds. All it would take is one push of the bird feeder and a lot of seeds would fall out. It's not that great, but the squirrels love it. Squirrels would venture onto the ground to find nuts and seeds and also bury them. There were 12 observations of a squirrel on the ground, snow, or grass, or dirt. Squirrels will sometimes go on the porch or deck of a house. Uh, Not really the safest spot, but it's safer than staying out in the open. There were 3 observations of a squirrel going on someone's front porch. Building and rooftops. This is another very common place to find squirrels. This includes garages, rooftops, house rooftops, and any other thing that's on top of a building, really. There are 12 observations of a squirrel on a roof. And actually, one of them, it was crawling on the bricks of the side of a house. The road. Squirrels only go to the road to cross it, and they probably only want to cross it to get back to their nest or to find food. There are 4 observations of a squirrel on a road. So weather is my next category. Squirrels basically are out in almost all weather, and the different categories I had recorded are clear, no precipitation, and it's not particularly cloudy. Sunny, lots of sunlight, that adds a bit of warmth. Overcast, lots of clouds. Wet, after rain, ground is wet. Mild, it's warm enough to go outside in a sweater, so the past few days in March. Chilly, still pretty cold, kind of like fall and early spring weather. And cold is winter weather. Freezing is absolute coldest. It is when you don't even want to go outside with snow suits on. Windy, lots of wind. Snowy when it's snowing, and rainy when it's raining. And a lot of these weather conditions overlapped with each other on different observations. So the 2 different species that I observed of squirrel were the eastern gray squirrel and the North American red squirrel. So the eastern gray squirrel, there were 68 observations of it. They're 45 centimeters long, about 400 to 600 grams. They're solitary but will interact and play with others. They collect food to eat on the spot or bury. They nest in trees, and they almost always ran away from the smaller red squirrel at the cottage property. There was only one instance where a gray squirrel stood its ground. So you might be wondering, hey, they're black squirrels. Are those a different species? Actually, they're not. They're the exact same species as the eastern gray squirrel. Um, Scientists aren't certain about why they come in 2 different pigments, but it's said that gray squirrels with black coats have an allele that alter their pigmentation. This allele, like a slightly altered gene or piece of DNA, is theorized to have come from fox squirrel, which has the identical color-altering haplotype, and is said to have been passed to gray squirrels through interbreeding over thousands of years. Black coats apparently occur more in the north, so if you go to the southern US, you'll barely see any black squirrels. And this is also why some black squirrels are becoming a lot more common in the UK, where it's more north and cold. But the squirrels themselves basically see no difference. They won't act differently towards, like a gray one won't act differently towards a black one won't act differently towards a gray one because they're basically the same species. However, here, just like as the data suggests with black squirrels occurring more north, there were a lot more black squirrel observations with 53 as opposed to the 15 gray squirrel observations. So the American red squirrel, there were only 8 observations of this guy, and in fact 7 of them were the exact same individual. They're about 30 centimeters long, really small, really cute, 200 grams. They're solitary, and they nest in the ground. They're very territorial and aggressive and actually chase away other animals even if they're larger. So the behavior of these squirrels, they're constantly looking for food, and when you look at the different squirrel behavior, you can kind of categorize them under three different big categories: foraging, recreation and play, aggression and conflict. Foraging is also known as just looking for food or materials to bring back to the nest. A lot of times you would see squirrels just running and you don't know where they're running, but they're probably looking for food. And if they're not showing any sign of aggression, uh, that's probably what they're doing. The next category is recreation and play, or relaxing. So there were 12 observations of the squirrels relaxing or playing. Um, One of the most common occurrences would be squirrels chasing each other around the tree or lying down on the fence. Aggression and conflict. There were 12 observations of squirrels being aggressive or standing their ground. Often a squirrel will be foraging and it leads to them conflicting with another. The red squirrel would have conflict with almost every other squirrel that it came across. It would see a gray squirrel and run towards it and chase it off. Other animals. So this is just a category about what other animals are around that could be altering the squirrel's behavior. Birds were commonly seen, however, they almost never did anything to the squirrel. Dogs and people would cause the squirrel to run away, and other squirrels would cause a different reaction depending on the squirrel. Some of them would play, some of them would fight, some of them just wouldn't even mind each other. And there were 34 observations of another animal in the immediate vicinity, and 17 times that animal had interacted with the squirrel. Notable habits. So this is the final category, and this just goes over unique things that I noticed the squirrels doing that I would like to share. Um, so the red squirrel showed a lot of activity or a lot of behavior that it repeated. The red squirrel would always stop and turn every few seconds, looking around its surroundings to be safe. It was very jittery. He'd run like 5 feet, stop, look around, run 5 feet more, stop, look around, and then run off some more. The red squirrel would always bolt towards larger gray squirrels when it saw it near the bird seed, and only one time the gray squirrel actually stood its ground. One time, a red squirrel actually stole the seeds from one of the gray squirrels. Um, and one time, I was walking through an apple orchard and I saw a red squirrel in a tree. He waited for me to get far away and then he jumped about 10 feet from the top of the left branch down to the ground and he buried into the snow. And when I went to look for him, he jumped out. It was really funny. But it just shows that even though they're tough against the gray squirrels, they're still scared of people. Squirrel alarm system. So on December 31st, there was one squirrel that quickly ran up a tree. It started wagging its tail and making chirping noises. I thought that it had seen a bird of prey or something like that, and it was warning the others. However, I can't confirm this because I didn't see any other animal. But there was another occurrence at U of T. I saw a squirrel and it was in the tree and it was just staring at me and chirping, um, probably just to intimidate me. The bird feeder would see squirrels do a lot of strange things to get food. Um, and it would go in this kind of sequence. So some squirrels would eat the seed from the ground. Others would climb up the pole to shake seeds off. Others would climb the cedar tree and jump on the bird feeder, and others would literally hang from the bottom of the bird feeder with their hind legs and do a pull-up every time they wanted to go get more feed. They could hold this position for minutes. Humans and cameras. So squirrels actually were really interested whenever I was taking a photo of them. Also, one time when I was at U of T, I had food and squirrels were into me. They were coming around really close. And I saw this one squirrel that was golden brown. I didn't know exactly what species it was. I assume it's a gray squirrel because no fox squirrels live in Toronto. However, it was unlike any other squirrel I had seen during my observations. Sun tanning is one of the favorite activities for squirrels to do. They like to just sprawl out on the fence and sleep or rest and warm up in the sun. Navigation. So a lot of times I would see squirrels running and jumping through trees. Uh, a lot of times squirrels take paths with a lot of obstacles, and it's probably harder for them to get caught by something if you're constantly moving from one surface to another. They will take these detours because it looks like they're searching the entire time. They make a journey. Who knows, if they jump to one branch, maybe they'll find food. If they jump to this branch, maybe they'll find another piece of food. That's probably why they go and check out everything. It's like a dog sniffing things. And if they're not looking for food, the fact that they like to play makes me believe that they enjoy jumping and traversing a lot of obstacles. It also strengthens their abilities for running away from threats. The physical strength of squirrels is pretty impressive for their small size. They can jump about 6 feet on top of houses, and the small red squirrel is strong enough to scare away other larger squirrels. Squirrels have great problem-solving skills to find food. One squirrel was seen using its weight to lower a branch to get closer to the roof of a garage so it could jump down safely. Squirrels get by any obstacle between them and the bird feeder. They learned that moving the bird feeder even a bit would cause seeds to drop down, and they remember where they bury seeds and nuts over many months, and a squirrel would still know where to find them after all that time. And here are some conclusions from my data. Eastern gray squirrels are the most common squirrel in Ontario, with the black variant being much more prevalent than the gray. Squirrels are most active during the day and right before dusk. Squirrels are constantly on the search for food, and most of what they do in a day is trying to acquire food. Red squirrels are very territorial. Squirrels are solitary, but will play with other squirrels that they like and conflict with squirrels that they do not like. They all have individual personalities. Squirrels are out all year round and through most of weather. Being arboreal, squirrels are most often found in trees. And urban spaces are actually just as viable for living as woodland areas. In fact, residential neighborhoods have a variety of surfaces and structures that squirrels make use of, and things like garbage cans provide resources for them too.